Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Snap Count. I am your host, Trai Essex. I am with my quarterback and yours, Mr. Charlie Batch. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How you doing over there?
Fantastic, man. I was able to come home to Pittsburgh this weekend in what was a pretty awesome moment for me. A lot of happenings in Steelers camp this week that we're going to get to, as well as some things happening in the NFL. But before we get to that, something that I know is true and dear to our heart, especially yours, the Best of Batch Foundation, something that you've had in Pittsburgh for some time now, has some big news, Mr. CB. Tell us what's going on over there.
Oh man, it's awesome. I appreciate that. Yes, Best of the Batch Foundation. We just celebrated 27 years of the foundation, and we actually service 3,800. We're close to 4,000 kids annually that we have, and we're in 9 counties throughout southwestern PA. So as we kind of branch off, of course, with our programs throughout the course of the year, we just had our big summer day program, which was our summer day camp, which actually we had 260 kids that were a part of it. We went 8 weeks, 4 days a week. So they were super excited about it. It's a free camp that kids can participate in, grades 3 through 10. So it was exciting that way, but also it gives us an opportunity to showcase what we did. We just expanded as we celebrated with the ribbon cutting last year. So you can see right there in the picture, you can see where we once were. We were in our existing building, far building to the right. We were there for 18 years, and we acquired all 3 parcels. And then ultimately what you see here now, the expansion of what it looks like today. We still kept the existing building to show that change is good. Never forget where you came from, but also change is good. And now you see everything in color that we have there. So we just went and added on 27,000 square feet to that. So again, 33,000 in whole. So with all of our programs that we do, we love to showcase it. We love to be transparent across the board. So if anybody's in Pittsburgh, they want to come pass for a tour, they're more than happy to do that. We get a lot of Steelers Nation fans that will actually come in and tour. And we do have a couple of surprise pop-up visits. They're like, hey, I'm outside the building, and they hit me, and I'll actually respond back, and they'll come in for a tour because we just love to be transparent. We love to show the building off first and foremost. So again, we're an educational foundation, and anybody who wants to be a part of it, they actually can go to batchfoundation.org to see everything that we do throughout a calendar year as we get ready to roll into our backpack program, which we call it Batch Packs. So we give over 3,000 book bags filled with school supplies. We're in the process of loading those up now. We'll distribute those after Labor Day, and then ultimately our holiday drive, which people get excited about as well. So there are many different opportunities that people can be a part of. But also, we want people to actually save the date. November 13th, we are actually doing our In the Pocket event that we're having this year, which is our pool, poker, and pool event, which you participated in, Trai, a number of years ago. You are one heck of a ping pong player, by the way, brother. I can tell you that. A lot of people don't know about you with that, but that's going to be our annual In the Pocket, and we're actually doing it tailgate style this year. So hold the date, save the date. Thursday, November 13th this year.
I know it's that event is awesome. I had a chance to meet some Steeler legends that I grew up watching. Got a chance to play ping pong against the late great Franco Harris, and he whooped up on me quite often, actually. And so
here's the pause on that moment, Trai. Here's the one thing that happens, right? We were cleaning up that day, and all we hear, we're all cleaning up, and all we hear, the tink, the tink, the tink, the tink. We're like, what is going on? What is that noise? And we, lo and behold, we peek behind, and it's you and Franco playing ping pong. Yeah. Y'all boys are going, y'all going all night. Like, it was that competitive. That's when I realized, like, you are one heck of a ping pong player. I knew Franco was, but right. I didn't realize your skill level up until that point.
You know, the competition don't stop on the football field. We take it everywhere we go, which is a beautiful transition like into what we need to talk about this week. Steelers have just finished up their second week of camp, and they kind of culminated with Friday Night Lights, which I was able to be in attendance with. Some amazing position battles are happening. We have some guys at the tight end position, some guys at the running back position, O-line, and it seems like the majority of our battles are on the offensive side of the ball. And when you got guys out there battling for positions, you know, some temperatures start to flare up. There will be fights. And I know I got into my fair share of fights as an offensive lineman, going against some D linemen who are hungry to make their job, to make the team. Their first time on a job, going against another young guy and myself. But I always want to know from the quarterback perspective. I know coaches always harp on losing time, losing practice time, but I know some coaches who like to see those tempers flare up a little bit. But from a quarterback perspective, how helpful do you think it is that guys, or is it helpful at all? Or does it show you anything when guys, get a little heated out there and they start fighting a little bit? Do you think that helps at all?
It does help because you want to see kind of how people are wired, right? When you play
Mhm.
with somebody for so long, you've been around them, you know what kind of makes them tick. But when they're new to here, you want to see, okay, how do they compete in competitive environments?
Right.
And when you see just, one of the battles that I looked at with Jack Sawyer against Darnell Washington, right? And those two are
Mhm.
going one on one, and you're seeing them going back and forth. They each got the best of one another. Then you're running it back for the third round to see now who's take all winner. But when you just see people jawing and making sure from a competitive nature that these guys are actually, they love what they're doing, but actually have a little dog in
Right.
them, those are things that you pay attention to. And when anytime that you get your quarterbacks that are watching it, of course, now I'm on a former player side, but when you look back, Ben Roethlisberger, now Aaron Rodgers, they'll stop what they're doing to come over and watch the back on backers drills.
Right.
He wants to see it. He heard about Jalen Warren. He's now watching it eye to eye. And then he wanted to see what Caleb Johnson was going to do. And he's sitting there watching that rep. And when you're watching those reps mentally, you want to see, can that guy step up there and contain the blitzer and be able to do it on a consistent basis? And those are things that were popping out because you can see Aaron Rodgers at that point shaking his head like, yeah, this guy can play. And that's what you want to see.
Right. I mean, tempers are going to flare up, especially when you've been in camp. And I know in Pittsburgh, it's been hot. Like the weather has been insane. And so when you get that little bit of weather, that little bit of heat, that little bit of tiredness, and somebody's out there trying to get past you and make you look bad at what your job, you're gonna get a little heated. And so I saw that. I was able to see some attitude, and I needed to see that from the offensive side of the ball because as far as position groups go, that group I think is the furthest behind as far as the team is concerned. But they are also the youngest. They're the ones with the least experience, and they're the group that probably has to use this time to build chemistry because they're just not familiar with one another. So it was good to see uh, Troy Fontenot. I'm butchering
Montana.
his last name, Fontanum,
Yep.
out there battling with TJ Watt, out there putting hands on him. Good to see him. Good to see Broderick Jones out there getting a little heated. Now, he has some work to do from a technique perspective, but if you ain't gonna get your technique right, you better be out there fighting, imposing your will on a defensive lineman at all costs. That's what your job is. But the running back position, there's some battles going on in there. And right now, we don't have a Najee Harris back there to lead the group. Somebody that's been there for the third for 3 years and is now off in LA. We have Jalen Warren who has to prove himself. We got a Caleb Johnson as a rookie. We got a whole bunch of undrafted and travel journeymen back there. What have you seen in that position? Has anybody kind of risen to the top and showed that they are ready to lead that position group?
Well, I think the one that's standing out at this particular point is Caleb Johnson because he's getting more of the reps. They want to see what he's capable of doing in
Mhm.
there. So you see him on passing downs a lot more, and they just want to see kind of what that ebb and flow looks like, especially so they put him a couple of times on the short yardage goal line to see how he competes from that perspective. We don't know how much we're going to see Jalen Warren throughout the preseason because we know he's entrenched as a starter.
Right.
So, but again, you want to see everybody else that's coming behind him. And the first step in that pecking order is Johnson, and he's been delivering in a big way throughout camp.
And moving over to the wide receiver position, that's been a much maligned position. We brought in DK Metcalf. We're waiting to see what Roman Wilson can do. He kind of had a redshirt year last year, but he wants to come in and prove himself. We got a guy under the radar in Calvin Austin. We got some undrafted guys in Rock Taylor who has made some splashes. We got some vet guys in Scotty Miller and Robert Woods who are still trying to prove that they still have what it takes. How has that position battle panned out to you? I know the number two wide receiver has been much talked about so far in camp. Who has really stepped up in a big way and caught the eyes of the coaches?
And that's something that, everybody waiting for him to kind of just really completely separate themselves, that they all been consistent. And coming into this, everybody thought it was going to be a 3-horse race, right? You have Robert Woods, you have Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. But the one person that really is saying, hey, don't forget about me is Scotty Miller. This guy is throwing his name in the hat. He is creating these splash plays to say, hey, I've done it in this league. I want the opportunity, especially with the number 2 position being open. People just think it's plug and play. And those are things that ultimately, when you have a young Roman Wilson, the sky was the limit. They expected a lot from him last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt. This is a redshirt freshman year all over again for him.
Mm-hmm.
So all the things that he is doing, skill set, I'm not worried about that. But again, the nuances of defenses, being able to now read defenses on your route, being able to convert off of what the main route would be. Those are things that he is learning at this particular point. So I think that's going to take a little bit longer. But again, he has an opportunity to separate himself because he probably will be given the first opportunity in this preseason game coming up here against Jacksonville this weekend. So these are going to be something that the coaches want to see who is going to separate themselves. Calvin Austin, yes, he's the veteran guy. Robert Woods, he's a veteran guy as well. So how much of Tomlin wants to see of those two versus now the young guy that you drafted a year ago, and they're going to give him every ample opportunity to now prove his value on this roster.
Exactly. And I know in this Arthur Smith offense, moving on over to the tight end position, he likes to use a lot of tight ends, and he brought in one in Jonnu Smith. We already had some standovers and Pat Fryermuth and Darnell Washington, Charlie, when I saw that, man, I've never seen a human quite like Darnell Washington. Max Starks said this one thing. I was like, I've never seen a tight end that huge and that loves to block that much. He's like, yeah, that's right. And they're usually tackles. And he definitely has the skill set. But how will Arthur Smith get these tight ends to work as a unit? They all offer, I think, something a little bit different. You got Pat Fryermuth, who has proven that he's a really standout pass catcher, as well as Jonnu Smith. But we got a guy in Connor Hayward who's trying to make some hay and trying to be valuable, as well as kind of a Swiss Army knife of sorts. And especially since we don't have the Najee Harris, the big back in the backfield for pass protection reason, even though Jalen Warner has shown, I know Arthur Smith likes to use the tight end in that kind of role sometimes, and he likes his tight end to be versatile. So do you think there's a chance we take 4 tight ends into this season with the 4 names I just named?
I think it's a strong possibility. And when you talk about Darnell Washington, this guy is huge. He's just a large human being, and there's not a lot of body fat on him. So that's something that you can't be as concerned. That's just how his body is, his stature of his body is. So when you see him moving down the field, being able to now run the routes, he ran a nice corner route the other day that got behind the secondary, and then people were just like, "Wow, we didn't expect Darnell to be able to do that." But to your point to Arthur Smith, he wants to use the tight ends. You know he's going to have 3 tight ends on his roster. He's even flirted with the idea of saying, you never know, I could possibly have 4 tight ends on the field at one given time. And if that's the case, then of course we'll see Connor Hayward on here. But again, he is in that hybrid role because he's able to play tight end, but also able to jump in and play fullback as well. So that's the advantage that Connor has, and also the experience that he has on special teams. So it's going to be very difficult to just kind of push Connor to the wayside, only because he does something that not many of the other tight ends does, which is play special teams.
Exactly. And so, not to be selfish and just concentrate on the offensive side of the ball, we got some battles on the defensive side of the ball too. I know we have our starters entrenched pretty much in the front 7. We got Cam, we got Keanu Benton, TJ, Alex, Peyton, and Patrick on the inside. And so this, for the front 7, at least on the defensive side of the ball, it's all about depth. And I know we drafted a rookie in Harmon out of Oregon. How has he shown so far in camp? Does he look like the first rounder? Is his pedigree showing up? And I know Coach Tomlin loves to put his first rounders in the fan. He's not scared at all about showing. How has he accepted the challenge thus far?
I mean, he's showed up in every way. I mean, he's been out there every single day, and he's like a sponge. He's trying to absorb everything that Cam Hayward is saying. But why wouldn't you do that when you have an all-pro sitting next to you in that manner? But he's been, everybody wanted to see him in the run game. The thing that I've been surprised at is the number of moves in the pass rush game that he's able to bring. And he's letting those offensive linemen have it, and he's bringing different moves. Everybody's saying, wow, we didn't realize you had that in your arsenal. So that's going to be a good repertoire, a good thing for him with his repertoire that he has. But ultimately, you'd add a Yaya Black in there, another young defensive lineman there. It's going to free up, because those guys are going to be able to take on those double teams. It's going to free up a Patrick Queen, a Peyton Wilson, to now be able to do what they do best, which is fly around and get to the football. Those are the things that I get excited about in that front 7, because yes, we know what on the edges, we know what Alex Haskins to bring, we know what TJ Watt is bringing, but when you are able to now secure that middle and allow those linebackers to run free, that's when this defense becomes dangerous.
Yeah, just seeing him work in one-on-one pass rush, he looks like a veteran already with his multitude of moves. He wasn't just bull rushing, which as offensive lineman, we can't stand when you're just bull rushing and pass pro because it doesn't really work on your game as a defensive lineman. Anybody can bull rush, and usually more times than not, it takes a lot longer to get to the quarterback if you're bull rushing in a game. And so it's good to see that he has maturity. He's listening to the veterans on that squad, and Cam, he has some great ones to learn from. But in order to make that defensive line's job a little bit easier, the secondary has to mesh in a big way. We got a lot of new faces back there. And I know the one that we've been really concentrating on and looking at is that free safety position with the trade of Micah Fitzpatrick. How's Juan Thornhill really stepped up into the role? And is it his position to lose, or is there some competition back there?
No, it's his to lose that for me when I'm looking at it. But of course, Coach Tomlin is always going to create that competition battle at that particular point. He brought Chuck Clark in here to now compete in that particular spot. Thornhill have been doing a really good job of making sure that everybody aligns. There hasn't been missed coverages or blown coverages throughout this entire defense. And of course, that's a lot easier said than done when you have three corners that can play man-to-man coverage. So you're seeing a lot of different creativity, a lot of things that are happening on the backside end because Terrell Austin, defensive coordinator, he now has the flexibility to say, hey, my guys can do what they do outside. Now just make sure everybody is lined up. And Thornhill has been doing that. Chuck Clark has been doing that. So I think these are things that ultimately, you get excited about watching that back end.
Right. A lot of stuff going on in Steelers camp. We've had a few transactions, but we'll get to those here in a second after this short break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
These Steel City headlines were brought to you by Fairway Chevrolet GMC. Whether you're in the market for a truck that's heavy duty, built for work, or a real head turner, Fairway Chevrolet GMC has you covered. With clear upfront pricing, unmatched inventory, and a team that works to earn your business, Fairway Chevrolet GMC is the place to go. Trucks, SUVs, great pricing, no nonsense. That's the Fairway. And I think it's pretty fair that Cordarrelle Patterson had a chance to use social media to announce to Steeler Nation that he will no longer be with us. And being a big fan of Cordarrelle Patterson, knowing my affinity for veterans anyway, I do appreciate that he had a chance to kind of discuss on his own terms that he wasn't going to be released. But what does that do to our special teams? I know Coach Tomlin always harps about the hidden yardage in the return game. Is there anybody that has stepped up in a big way that can replace Cordarrelle Patterson, or what are we truly missing by seeing number 84 leave?
Yeah, I think when you look at everything that's going on here, I think it's tough because the new rules, I think, ultimately impacted Cordarrelle Patterson, right? Because this guy has 9 touchdowns in his career with kickoff returns, and that was something that was going to be utilized. But when you kick away from him in the manner that they were doing last year, hey, you would much rather give up 5 yards on the kick return versus allowing him the opportunity to break the big one. So these are things that are unfortunate. He was ahead of it as it relates to his release. Can he still play? Absolutely, he can. So hopefully he gets that opportunity. He was a great person to be around. I'm glad I had the opportunity to be around him over the last year to see the type of man that he was. So we're going to miss him in Pittsburgh. Hopefully, you never know. The door can be open and maybe he returns back if injuries occur throughout the preseason. That's assuming he's still available and nobody else picks him up.
Right. I mean, another guy that is making his return back is Braden Fehoko, giving our D-line a little bit more depth. It came at the expense of my Northwestern alum and Dean Lowry getting moved to IR, who's been a productive. He had a career in Green Bay and had a couple of years here before ultimately being put on IR this offseason. So we brought in Braden Fehoko. What does he do? He has some experience in this defense. Does he add? He's a good piece to add for depth. What is his skill set, and how does a slimmed down version of him help our D-line?
Yeah, I mean, he played a lot in 2023. Last year, not so much. But I think ultimately what he's bringing here, he's bringing that veteran experience here. Now, do they, that I'm sure you need the body throughout preseason to be able to play, but he does have that opportunity. But as again, how many more spots are available on that defensive line rotation when you do have 2 rookies that are there, and then you have Keanu Benton and Cam Hayward. So do you add a 5th or a 6th defensive lineman? So I think he may get the opportunity for the practice squad to still be around. But this guy can play. He looked good throughout the last week that he was here. He was excited to be back. and guys enjoy being around him. You saw the love that all the people when he walked on that practice field showed to him and say, man, good to have you back, brother, man. And you could just see the joy of excitement that actually he was able to bring to the team, and it was exciting to watch.
Yeah, he gets added to a defense that, according to Madden, was the highest ranked defense in the NFL. I think the Madden rating for the defense going into is either a 91 or a 93. So Madden has taken notice. And Madden, this whole phenomenon about Madden ratings, it's been a thing for the last 7 or 8 years. I don't know if it was as much for me or even for you. I know, CB, you were on the original Tecmo Bowl, so I don't know if Madden ratings was a thing for you. But as Madden gotten bigger and bigger, is this something that you looked at as a player? Like, what was your Madden score every offseason?
See, I didn't see it. The more I got it, the further in my career I got, the more I got away from playing video games, right? I used to be, I was all in during my early years, but ultimately that, my schedule just didn't allow me to sit down and concentrate as my nephew was beating the heck out of me in Madden. But players take notice to that because they're playing these games as well, and they want to see, how close in comparison to reality of what those numbers are. And if you guys think that they should be higher than what they are, guys get upset about that. They do visualize that and talk about it. And the moment they get around the EA guys, they'll express themselves to say, hey, my numbers should be better than what they are. And you'll see a lot of people, whether you're starting or not, they substitute themselves to be playing as well. That was something that I did a lot when I did play it. As much as we love Ben Roethlisberger, I had to put myself in there to play QB as well. So these are things that you just get excited about, and just be an honor to actually be a part of these games, because not many people do get that opportunity.
Right. I mean, being part of Madden was a dream come true. I think I got to a career high of 82. I mean, that was good in my book. I mean, I was on the game. But as we look at some of the ratings that our guys, do you think it's fair? I know TJ was a number low. I think he's a 96. He didn't get to the coveted 99 like our nemesis over there in Cleveland land, and Myles Garrett. He was one of 6 or 7 players, I think, that got 99. I think Cam Hayward fell like 3rd or 4th as far as D tackles go. It's good to see Jalen Ramsey still up there as a high 90s, mid 90s type of guy. But as I'm looking at this list, I think there's one travesty up there. Chris Boswell, who I think is the best kicker in the league and the most clutch kicker, I think, bar none, came in second, I think, to the Dallas kicker, Braden Aubrey. I mean, what's going on, Madden? Let's get this right. It's obvious that Boswell and Bos we trust should be the best kicker. But by and large, I think Madden has represented the Steelers well. Anybody else you think should be on that list? Any other big movers you think throughout the season we could see getting up to the 80s or low 90s?
Yeah, I mean, I could see Aaron getting back up there. And I think the beauty of this list, when you look at it, back when I played, it was, it was CD. Your numbers stay where they are. Now they can be updated.
Now they can be improved.
They can be updated daily.
They actually update throughout the week.
So I can see more of the offensive guys, those numbers, starting to go up. The better that they play as the season goes on. So if I had to look on one side of the ball, I think you'll see a lot more movement on the offensive side than what you do on the defensive side. Because quite frankly, defensively, these guys, if they all stay healthy, man, they do have a real opportunity to be a top 5 defense. And that is not being a homer by any means. They believe that, and watching them on the practice field and the way that they're gelling together, I strongly believe that they actually could become a top 5 defense.
Yeah, there's some other top talented people that were ranked high in Madden that have requested trades, but we'll let you know all about that and more here coming back after this commercial break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
No, CB, I know I'm guilty of being one of those Steeler fans. I'm on the other side of things. Used to play, and now I'm a true fan. Whenever there's a elite wide receiver that seems to be on the trading block, I'm on social media asking for them to come on over to Pittsburgh. I know certain things can't happen, but it's always nice to think about what you can get. We got another big name in DC, and Terry McLaurin, who has recently requested a trade because he couldn't get the deal worked out in the time fashion that he would like to. Now, he's not the only one. There's another guy in Micah Parsons in Dallas who also has requested a trade. Now, how much salt do you think these trade requests hold? Do you think it's just a negotiating tactic? Do you think these guys really want to leave and have been fed up with the team and the way negotiations have gone so far?
Yeah, when you look at the sound bites, you're like they're fed up with the team, but they love their players that they're playing within the organization. It just comes down to the business side of it. So you have to kind of position yourself in that particular manner when you're asking for a trade. It's only because they're not paying you what you feel that you deserved in this particular case. When you see Terry and what he's going through, his benchmark is DK. The numbers are what they are with the contract. He wants to get to that particular point. If we took out the numbers, absolutely Terry would be here, or at least there'd be inquiries as it relates to him being here. But dollars are going to play, because if you do trade for him, you ultimately got to pay him. And it's really hard to justify playing two players at the same position, that same dollar amount. That is very tough to do. Can you massage the numbers in the manner to make it work? Sure. But it's just hard to see him here at this particular point.
Yeah, I don't think it's realistic. But with Terry approaching his year 30, or I think he might be 30 already, or he turns 30 this year. If there were a theoretical trade, how much do you think a player like Terry McLaurin would require?
I think that number, it kind of goes down the longer you wait as you get to the regular season, but it's, Omar Khan has been really good at, projecting those things. Would you give up a second, maybe a fourth? Who knows? I'm not the general manager, so it's hard for me to say. But anytime that you have an opening in this manner, and when people are talking about the number 2 position, remember, we went through this last year when Brandon Ayuk was with the 49ers, and all throughout every week throughout training camp, he was always linked to the Steelers. So this is something that we're still hearing at this particular manner. There was a report that was out there that said the Steelers did inquire about what that could potentially look like. Now, whether how true that was or not, we don't know. But those are just rumors that are out there at this particular point. But somebody has to step up, and you're hoping that happens this weekend. That will kind of dismiss some of the talk that we're talking about now. But who knows at this particular point?
Right. Heck of a player, Ohio State product. Another Big Ten guy, Micah Parsons from Penn State. When you think about these elite pass rushers and how important and how impactful they are in the game, there probably isn't another position group outside the quarterback that has as big of an impact on the game. And so therefore their asking prices are always up towards the top as far as players are concerned. Would you give up 2 first-round draft picks and then pay a Micah Parsons $45 million a year if you were a team that needed a pass rusher?
Yeah, if you needed a pass rusher, you better, when you want to make those calls, and be prepared to give up 2 first-rounders for that. So that's something that, because he's so young and so talented, that's the conversations that you have to have. But again, that's Dallas's fault for waiting. They could have signed him last year and not worry about this. But the moment that Myles Garrett, the moment that TJ Watt signed their contract, guess what? His asking price went up. So these are things that ultimately happens. But when you see the skill set of what Micah Parsons brings, he is scary to watch. And I know you as an offensive lineman, you want to watch him film and like, man, how would you prepare for that when you watch that guy? What comes to mind when you're watching him play?
No, I watch these cats. I'm happily retired, CB. I don't need to be out there trying to black any of these young cats, brother. But when you think about Micah Parsons, he's perennially ranked as one of the top pass rushers in the league, along with the TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. I think we can both agree those 3 belong in the top 5, no matter how you slice it. Who are some other names? If you had to pick your top 5, give me the order too. I'm putting you on the spot. Give me your top 5 pass rushers in the league.
Wow. Of course, you're going with TJ. You're going with Myles Garrett up there. I'm putting Max Crosby out there too.
Right.
He is really good. Of course, Eastern Michigan, got to show them love. This guy has represented the university in great ways, so we're super proud of him. I would probably think one of the Bosa brothers that you put in there. I think they would be in there. And then I think 5th is just kind of it's a toss-up.
What about Hendrickson? Where do you put him at?
I could slide him into the 5th only because of the numbers that he put up the last 2 years. He's been consistent that way. But again, that defense was bad with him in the defense, even though he put up his numbers. So, it's just kind of, you could say the same thing with a couple of the other players that we mentioned as well. I'm not trying to throw shade at him in any manner whatsoever. It's just a matter that when you look at the fifth slot, there's a lot of people that you can put into that are deserving to be there as well. But to your point, we can put Henderson in there for the sake of conversation. But it's tough because when you look at Micah's situation, you look at Henderson's situation, both of them are under contract. Very hard to move when you're under contract. You can say, hey, trade me. But if the owners don't want to trade you, you're not going anywhere. Be prepared to play that season or sit out and lose a free agent year or lose a credited season for free agent. So it makes it even tougher to leave at the end of the season. So I expect both of those guys to be standing exactly where they are on their current teams playing this season out.
I agree. And if we had to say where Terry is going to be to start the year, do you think he's going to stay in Washington as well?
I think Terry will be in Washington as well. Do I see them working out maybe a contract extension 1 year, maybe putting some more money into this particular contract to keep him happy for this season and then let the business happen out after this season? Yeah, that is a possibility, but I expect Terry to be in Washington this year as well.
The thing that impresses me about these new age pass rushers, everybody is different. I mean, when you look at those top five that you name, and I have a very similar top five, I would put TJ at number one because his sacks always seem to come when we need it the most. We see our record without TJ in the game, and we see our record with it. And I don't think there's anybody that has been that impactful from that position that has had that overall impact on the game like TJ has. Miles, he's been one or two the last 3 or 4 years. He's probably going to have another great year. I'll put Max Crosby actually at number 3. The dude has a motor like nobody's business. Nobody likes to block him because the same way he ends the game or the same way he starts the game, that's how he ends it too. And he's relentless and he brings a certain amount of energy that I'm not sure anybody else plays with in the league. And then I would put Micah in just because of his versatility. He rushes the passer from anywhere. He can rush it from the left end, the right end. He comes up the middle. He can play D tackle. He's a lot stronger than what his size would indicate. The guy has put some offensive linemen on his butts, and it's pretty impressive. And I know he's going to end up probably being the highest paid defensive lineman or defensive player in the league here pretty soon. And then at number 5, I got a guy who actually started the year out hot last year and had a pretty bad injury. I like Aiden Hutchinson in Detroit. What he was able to do and how he improved from year 1 to year 2. And what I think he's going to do this year is going to be a testament to why I think he's a top 5 pass rusher in this league. Detroit's going to be a handful, and a big reason for that is because of Aiden Hutchinson. So that would be my top 5.
So we have three of the same pretty much there, 4th and 5th. I think I put the Bosa in there. And then Henderson, and Micah was not on my list, but of course that can, be. It's not like they're 1A and 1C; they're all 1As in that particular manner. So I think you had Micah in there. I did not off of my 5, but either way, it is a really good conversation to have.
Right. These guys are going to be around for a long time, and nightmares for all offensive tackles. But speaking of offensive tackle and O-line play in general, they have a big test. We have Jacksonville this weekend. There's a lot of position groups I think the Steelers are going to be looking at, but we'll get to that after this commercial break, our preview for this weekend's game versus the Jaguars. Finally, the Steelers get to hit somebody else besides other Steelers. First preseason game this weekend, this Sunday, versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, who it seems we always play in the preseason. At least when I played, every year we seem to either be in Jacksonville or Jacksonville used to come up to us. But obviously a big test. I know guys are tired of hitting each other in camp, but this is the first litmus test for a lot of rookies on this team. The vets are entrenched. A lot of vets aren't going to play this weekend. We probably won't see TJ. We probably won't see Aaron. We probably won't see Cam. But there are plenty of battles to be hashed out this weekend. Give me 2 position groups that you're looking at, and give me 2 players within those position groups that you want to see perform in a big way this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking at obviously a running back group that we're talking about. I want to see if Caleb Johnson is ready to take that next step, which he looks every bit of in practice. Now we just need to confirm that. in the regular or in the preseason games here. So running back group is somewhere I'm looking at. Offensive line. I mean, I want to see Mason McCormick. I want to see him jump from year 1 to year 2 to secure that starting job up front. And those are things that, we're talking about. We mentioned before. And I'll give you 3. My third one is the receiver group. I want to see one of those guys because we don't know how much DK Metcalf is going to play in this preseason. I don't expect to see him at all in this game here. But again, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, I know he was, dealing with some issues there. Will he be healthy enough to play in this preseason game? And if he's not, let's see Robert Woods. He is a veteran guy. We know he can play, but can he do it in this system? So we want to see what he's able to bring to the equation. And Roman Wilson, he will be the featured guy out there to see if this is, for him to be able to now get an expedited learning curve by missing all of last year to what we're seeing here now. So that's the 2-3 position groups that I'm focusing on. And this is the only reason why I want to see at least Aaron Rodgers in the game. I don't care if it's just a 3 and out, just to get the mechanics with your new guys. Get the play in that huddle. I don't care if he has 3 runs that he's going to hand it off. It's just the mechanics getting used to his new group up front. That's why I would only selfishly want to see him for 3 plays.
Well, with some of the snap issues that we've had in camp too, it'll be good for him to develop that game time rapport with Zach Frazier. And continuing on the O-line, I think there is no position group that needs this game more than that group. I know we hinted at Madden ratings earlier, but Madden knows as well as we do, there's a lot of unproven talent on that offensive line. And we go across the board. At left tackle, Broderick came in at a 72 on Madden.
Wow.
Isaac, an 80. Zach, our highest rated offensive lineman, rightfully so, with the film he put out last year, was at 84. Mason, who you mentioned, you want to see how he steps up into the second year. And I agree with you. He's a 74. And then Trai was a 77, having only played 1 true game last year before getting hurt. And so this offensive line group as a whole, I would imagine would play the whole first half, if not a little bit more into the second half. I know Coach Meyer has to see these guys, how they mesh. We have a starting line in pencil, but there are some guys I think in a Dylan Cook or my number 6, Stephen Jones at 79, who have something to say about perhaps making a push to start. There aren't anybody that would say is entrenched at their starting position up front outside of maybe Isaac and Zach at left guard and center. Other than that, I think there hasn't been enough proven at the right tackle position for Troy to say that it's his, or the right guard position to say that it's Mason, or at left tackle, even with his pedigree being a first-round draft pick, and Broderick Jones, who I think needs this more than anybody. There's a lot being said in social media, a lot being said in the media in general about how 77 Broderick Jones is going to do versus some competition. He hasn't had the greatest start of camp, if we're just keeping it real. He's missed some time, and when he's been out there, there's been some technique issues. So this is a huge game for number 77, but the whole O-line as a whole has to go up there and protect Aaron Rodgers if he's out there for a few plays, Mason, Skylar Thompson, and Will Howard. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the O-line does.
And, they talk about potential, which they all have. And now they just have to prove it. And the thing, if you want to be good at offensive line, all of those guys have to play together. You're talking about practicing together, and obviously that's continuing here throughout the preseason. And those guys, there is an upside to them. I'm excited to see what they bring to the equation. And you just have to go out there and continue to prove it. When you have 2 first-rounders on the outside in your tackle positions, they have to step up. They have to be able to dominate. They have to be able to protect. And that's just something that we're all going to pay attention to as that offensive line is kind of gelling to what we're hoping they become.
Exactly. And as I was at practice this weekend, I wanted to see something. Now, with guys being young and guys not having chemistry, they haven't quite found their voice, especially in regards to a veteran-laden team as we have on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm looking to see who's going to be that leader up front. Is Zach going to come up and being more boisterous and letting guys know where they're supposed to be? Is he going to be that guy that get after it and get into a defense lineman grill and start a fight? I want to see that. One of the things that I did like seeing was Zach taking some leadership during practice. When the first team was off, I saw him running sprints behind the team period just as another way to get in condition. And that's I thought was a big step on him. Him being a second year, him leading that charge, getting the guys in shape. That's a good step in the right direction. Now, it's going to be a whole different ball game when they get together and play this weekend. I want to see who's going to step up, who's going to be the guy who's going to be like Marquise Pouncey, running 20 yards downfield to make that block. You know that was his calling card, right? We need to see that from somebody on offensive line. We need somebody going to pick up the running back at every single play. They used to annoy me to no end. And usually that happens when you don't have a lot of confidence. You're so busy about what you're trying to do as an offensive lineman, so busy about your assignment that you're starting to worry about some of the team aspect. You're not out there playing. You're not out there having fun, running around playing football like we like the game we loved growing up. And so that's the things I want to see. Those are the things that are going to tell me that the offensive lineman is out there. They know what they're doing. They have confidence in what they're doing, and they want to get after it. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. Looking forward to this Saturday.
And the one thing that I will be paying attention to, because we did have some snap issues that were happening throughout training camp. Now, when you add the weather, the humidity in Jacksonville, that could potentially be there. There's going to be a little moisture on the football. Let's see how that translates. Hopefully they fix that problem as they head into it. But that's just something hidden that I'm going to be paying attention to because of the issues that we've seen through camp thus far.
Right. Now, we concentrate all this preview talk about the offensive side of the ball. There are some things on the defensive side of the ball that need to be hashed out. How's that secondary going to mesh? We may not see everybody in the secondary, but who are some young guys back there behind the front 4 or 5 that you're looking to see step up this weekend versus Jacksonville?
Yeah, there's a cluster in there, to be honest with you. All of them, all the focus is on Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter Jr., those guys that we're seeing there. And I think when you see everything that's happening, inside, I'm trying to think like who can step up. Beanie, can Beanie step up? Yeah. Even though we know what he's capable of bringing to the equation, but again, they want to see him continue to prove it right now. They'll see if he's ready to take that next step. Based off what I saw at this particular point? Yes, absolutely. And he's just waiting his chance to get back into that starting group because again, he was running with that last year, but now that's removed and taken away from him. But again, injuries can happen. I don't want to wish injury on anybody, but you have to be ready at the moment's notice if something was to happen to be able to step in and go out there and deliver.
What's the word on Corey Trice? I know he got banged up a little bit. Does it look like he's going to get some? I know he's somebody that has had some injury issues, but somebody that the coaching staff was very high on from 2 years ago.
Yeah, they are. And I think, they're looking at him. We will get the injury report the closer we get to the game as it relates to who's available. And if all players are available, they'll play if you're not the superstar in that particular manner. So everybody should be prepared to play in that manner. We don't know if we're going to see Dante Kent, the rookie out of Central Michigan. But it's a Central or Western. I think it was Central Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. Central Michigan. You're right. That's our foe. Eastern Michigan's rival over there. How can I forget that one? Right. So we don't know if he's going to be available. We don't know if Corey Trice is going to be available. So these are things that ultimately, as the injury report happens, we're going to see and get that announcement. I probably would think maybe Thursday-ish, Friday, when that announcement is made as it relates to who's going to be available. But if all bodies are going to play, they all need to go out there and step up because 1, 2, and 3 at the cornerback positions are already solidified. What can you do at this particular point? Because, we didn't mention Darius Slay, but he's a guy that is on that defensive side that he's part of that 3-man rotation that's going to be out there. If you're looking to make a splash, it may not come in the secondary. You better make it another way. You better go out there and make it on special teams play and catch the eye and the attention of Coach Tomlin.
Exactly. And 2 guys that I think these are also huge camps for and huge games for. I want to see what Mark Robinson does. He's had a good start to camp. His skill set, he has a superpower. He loves to hit. He has been one of the guys that has kind of singled himself out as one of the harder hitters on the team. But how will that translate on game day? Will he read his assignments correctly? Will he be able to fit correctly? You can pop a guy all you want to, but are you popping him for a 2-yard gain or are you doing it at 15 yards downfield because you're not doing what you're supposed to do? Another one that's been injured, DeMarvin Leal. Did I say that correctly?
Leal.
Yep. Somebody that the coaching staff is really high on, very versatile guy. He's been able to play inside and out, but also somebody that's been hurt. So looking forward to see from Mark Robinson and Leal what they can do this weekend as well.
And another name to throw in there, Isaiah Loudermilk. This is a guy who's been in this defense for a while. They want to see him take that next step. Even though you have those two young guys in there who could be part of this rotation, he's going to have many opportunities throughout. He is a huge guy as well, and they want to see him now take that next step. So I'm looking at Isaiah in the front seven, and to your point, Mark Robinson. He's been around enough to know he is stout in the run game, but he needs to get better in the passing. They want to see him prove it and do it more consistently than what he's doing now. He's looked good thus far. Now they just want to see it translate into the games. How
has preseason changed in your opinion from days when they have 4 preseason games and some teams will play 5 if you include the Hall of Fame game. How has it changed, you think, from a coaching's perspective? With only 3 games left, you don't have as much of a rehearsal period to really evaluate these guys. How has it changed, you think, the biggest from now until then?
It's changed from the competition battles, but before you used to have it go in the training camp and in the preseason game. But now you pretty much need to know at least who your projected starter is when you're starting training camp to get that guy the most reps. Because if you take away a preseason game, guess what? That's about 60 opportunities that you may not necessarily get to see a guy play. So these are things that, I hear people talk about, hey, we need to get rid of the preseason. But on the flip side is maybe this is the season that you would need an extra preseason game. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers is new. You want to see him get some of those reps. That's why that's there. Then also you want to see a young Will Howard get those reps. So you have even though Mason Rudolph has been here, it's a new system. This is not a system that he's played in. So you now want to get Aaron his reps to make sure he's sharp, which he's not going to need much of. But again, it's a new system. Then you're going to see Mason. How much do you see of him? And then obviously Will Howard, you want to see a ton of him because he has yet to do it at the NFL level. So that's one of those things to where if you had an extra preseason game, it's easy to sit Aaron Rodgers in this one and say, Mason and Will, you'll start this one. And then Aaron, you'll get a little bit kind of sprinkle in as you go. You don't have that opportunity at this particular point. So you need to know who you have. And that's why these reps are important, because the more reps that these veteran guys get in practice, guess what? That means the less reps that you have to prepare for the preseason game. And nobody wants to hear whether or not you practice it. When the coach teaches it, he's teaching everybody. So he expects every player to learn and know what to do when they step into the game.
Right. Rule number 76 in Winter Crashers, no excuses. Play like a champion, And so you got to take advantage of every rep. I like to think about and tell this story about how a 6th-rounder and Chris Kimawatu, who wasn't going to make the starting lineup because we had a Kendall Simmons and an Alan Faneca and a Barrett Brooks who could play both guards. So how was he going to be valuable? My man, 6'3", all of 360, found a way by leading the wedge. He was on special teams as a kickoff returner. And he himself, Chris Kimawatu, was the wedge. Most teams had 3 guys back there. Chris was the wedge by himself. You remember those days, CB?
Oh, yeah. That was a big day. I mean, you look back and people would just, fly off of him like it was a little gnat or something. You'd be like, dang, this dude actually wants to be a part of it. But he knew that's the only way that I can make this team.
Right.
That's by going out there and special team. And that's not the only story that you hear. People forget James Harrison trying to make this team as a special team guy. Brett Kiesel as a special team guy. So there are names that you can throw out there to say, wait a minute, they got their start via special teams. And that's very similar to what you're talking about with Chris Kimawatu that had to play special teams and ultimately went on to be a starter in this league.
Right. And it doesn't have to be your typical body type, I remember Juice out there, wedge by himself. We were going against the Philadelphia Eagles, a linebacker who thought he was nifty, he could move around Chris. Chris had him zeroed in, and he hit this dude so hard, Chuck. He hit him so hard that the dude walked away 10 yards, ran, and then just stopped and fell to the ground. Indian style on the football field. Training staff came over, and I heard him. He's like, what hurts? He was like, all of this hurts. And so that was just one of the stories of Chris Kimawatu, how he was able to make a name for himself on special teams. And so I hope a lot of these young cats out here are listening and know that it's not just going to be the wide receiver reps. It's not going to just be the DB reps. You got to do what you can to make this team. And sometimes, especially for a Coach Tomlin-led team, special teams is the way in.
And I remember another story. We had Stephon Logan in 2009. And I remember he was sitting there talking to Coach Tomlin at that point, and he said, "What do I need to do to make this team?" He said, if you run and punt back, you'll make this team." And sure enough, he went back there and ran the punt back. He made the team. And I think he was the 6th receiver on that particular point, but it was still, he wanted to know how to do it and make this team. He was able to deliver. And that's one of those moments that I remember, because even though the preseason game may not mean much to some, it means a lot to others. Exactly. Because when you get to this point, the business side will take care of itself, because we're roughly about 3 weeks away from 1,100 people losing their job in the NFL. And you don't want to be one of those 1,100 people, better yet, one of the 37 that will lose their job on this particular roster. It's a very tough situation to be in. And we know the business side. We know how each player, because I've been on the side where I knew I was going to make the team, but also was in there in the preseason having to prove my value to make the team. So I've been on both sides of it as it relates to the spectrum. And it's very tough. And that's why Coach Tomlin, which I appreciate, that he respects the process, because he knows every player is dealing with something differently when it comes down to the stress levels that ultimately happen when he knows that cut day is happening at the end of the month.
Exactly. And you're not just auditioning for the Steelers. You're auditioning for the other 31 teams in the NFL as well. One team's trash is another team's treasure. And we've seen so many examples of teams and other players thriving in other situations just because they got picked up because of their performance in a preseason game. So best of luck to the Steelers and the rookies this weekend. We have a lot of position groups and a lot of battles that are going to hash themselves out this weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It really is. I'm excited. Glad preseason football is here. I'm glad we get a chance to hit somebody else this weekend.
Exactly. We'll be right back after this. Football is finally here. I couldn't be happier. Like I said, I watched a whole lot of soccer and tennis, but we finally got some preseason games happening this weekend. And I'm one of the few that actually enjoy preseason because I know how much goes into it. And I'm not just watching for my team to do well, but I'm watching individual players. But it is important. How important is the question, CB? How important is it that a team goes 3-0 or 0-3? Does it really project how good that team is when the regular season finally does start?
Yeah, not necessarily, but every coach values it different. They weigh it differently. And I think, you go to a Baltimore situation. He loves to win in the preseason because he feels that is going to ultimately impact what happens in the regular season. Coach Tomlin, yes, he wants to have a winning record there, but also understand their circumstances there. But also you want to make sure that when you're leaving that field, that you're celebrating a victory, not just, we lost. No, you want that feeling of what it's going to feel like during the regular season. So, I expect them to go out there and try to get that at least 2-1 record. 3-0 sometimes is a little challenging because sometimes you're just trying to get out of that last preseason game unscathed, right? You're like, no injuries. We don't really care about it, but you want to see that. So that's why it's good to put on a performance this week in week 1, because next week will be that, that kind of showcase game as you're heading into that regular season that your starters are going to play a little bit more in that particular game. So that's why you want to at least go out there and get this win. So now not putting that much pressure on week 2.
Right. Well, bottom line, we got Steelers football coming up this weekend, and shoot, it's your first game coming out the box. We get to see that pretty face of yours calling the game this weekend versus the Jaguars. Are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm back with Bob Pompiani. He's fresh off a vacation. We just finished up our training camp show, but as we get into this preseason mode, man, it's always fun to be back out there again. A little challenging because you have 90 players. You don't know the rotation of a lot of the guys that are actually going to play during that time. You just have to be on the ready and making sure that you're adjusting the rosters and making sure you're scratching out people, understanding who's going in and out of the game. So it's a lot of fun. It's organized chaos. And it's just one of those ones that I get excited about because it's an opportunity to showcase for Steelers Nation who the team is, and could potentially be some surprises that are going to make this roster for hopefully a fun season as we unfold.
Looking forward to it. All right. Thank y'all, everybody, for tuning in for the second episode of the Snap Count. Here we go.